Awaken to play.
God dang! Am I the only one listening to all the shenanigans that's going on outside? Wow! Anyway, hopefully things are going well for you guys as for me. Welcome to the Gamerman's Lounge. And today, I have been lately more getting into retro game collecting. Lately. Yes, I know I'm sounding like I'm on repeat, but this is me getting more into retro game collecting compared to the past 3 years. You could say that. 3 years. And here's what's been going on. This is between 2024 and winter 2025. Late 2024 and winter 2025. Soul Calibur 2. Gradius 5. The Japanese version of DDR Max 2 alongside the US version. I decided to do that for comparison's sake. Shinobi on the PlayStation 2. Grand Theft Auto, the PlayStation 2... Oh, wow. Hold on. Grand Theft Auto, the PlayStation 2 trilogy. Doesn't stop there. Q*bert. Hisatsu Pachinko Collection 9. Hisatsu Pachinko Collection for Saturn and PlayStation 1. I got the Saturn version. My goodness, good thing I got that. Tetris X. Last Bronx. This is, hold on. Last Bronx. This is surprisingly a US Sega Saturn game that I found cheaper. Okay, around $50, but still, cheap. That's a plot twist. Pretty crazy. So here's what got me so motivated. Emulation. Emulation and preservation. Okay, first off, I was having a hard time looking for retro upscaling hardware, so I threw my hands up in the air and be like, you know what, how about I go the emulation route and make this easy? However, at the same time, this ends up becoming more than that, because at the same time, I would end up finding a solution that would prolong my physical retro game collection for long, especially for the foreseeable future. Because here's the thing. What you're doing to ensure a backup of your game is you're basically creating like for example, an ISO file or a BinQ file from the game disk, and you're making a digital backup of that game in which you can boot up on your emulator, or you can have booted up from a modded PlayStation 2. That's another, I've been hearing about that. You just get a hold of those free Mic boots, and then you just, on the back of the PS2, you just plug in your hard drive or your solid state drive, and it would be full of backup PlayStation 2 games. Okay? So whether it's emulator or you're basically playing on a modded PlayStation 2 and booting from your solid state drive or your hard disk drive, whatever the case that may be, what you're doing is that you made a backup, you prolonged your retro game collection for long in the foreseeable future. So what's entirely going on is that, hey, you made the ISO file, you made the BinQ file from your PlayStation 2 disc or your PlayStation 1, or let's just say you backed up the GDI file, or you backed up the game files in the GDI file, and you decided to basically, you know, I'm going to have things compressed down into CHD, whatever the case may be. What you're doing is that you're making backups of the game, so that way if the original game disc, if something were to happen or your Dreamcast starts breaking down and you're still yet to get a new Dreamcast, hey, good news, you can fire up your favorite emulator, you can fire up your favorite game that you have backed up, and boom, you can still access your retro games. Basically, what you're doing right now is taking matters into your own hands. And as you're taking matters into your own hands, you are essentially saying, you know what, I'm going to go preserve my own retro game collection, especially my physical retro game collection, because here's the thing, you get those ROM dumping devices for cartridge games. You get a external DVD drive, and then you boot up your favorite software like ImageBurn. I use that. And then you're taking your physical retro games and you're making dumps of them. And what that means is that you're making backups of them. And not only that, you're making things convenient for you because you can just fire up an emulator and then you can play your physical retro games that way because you backed them up digitally. And guess what? You can sail the seven seas less because, hey, you just made it that more convenient than ever. Okay, so with that totally said, this is the combination of hey, I gotta preserve my own media, I gotta make sure I'm able to prolong my media, especially my physical retro games, and I could also do some home labbing since I'm gonna be playing around with emulators from left and right. And of course, this is where I end up lumping into on-the-go travel in the mix because I want to bring my retro game collection on the go. So that's why I ended up getting an AYN Odin 2. And then I'm like moving towards, okay, I'm going to go ahead and have emulators and have my ROMs stored on my phone. Oh wait, space complications. So I have to be careful with what amount of games I have on my phone. Okay, and then basically, this is me just doing some home labbing stuff because I'm playing around with emulators. Okay, now I'm beginning to sound like I'm on repeat and whatnot, so let's just move on. Okay, so basically, emulators have been seeing some improvements from left and right, especially whether it's the standalone emulators like PCSX2, or shall we say RetroArch, because we're beginning to see RetroArch become more something that's catching up to speed compared to standalone emulators, okay? However, whether you like to have everything in one sitting, such as RetroArch, and RetroArch does do that, or you prefer standalone emulators, again, basically, at the end of the day, you're booting up your favorite retro games, and you're basically gaming on those retro games, and you're still doing that to this day, because you preserved your own retro games. Okay, so here we have Donanpachi Daiojo on the PlayStation 2. Japanese import, by the way. Look at that right here, bullet hell shooter. Booted up on my bedroom PC. Have PCSX2 installed in my bedroom PC. Now, I did hear something about the PS2 core in the RetroArch. I'll go check that out when I have the chance. But yeah, this is essentially Donanpachi running on PlayStation 2. I made sure I switched to software renderer so that way there'll be less complications whatsoever. And then on my AYN Odin 2, there's Castlevania Lament of Innocence. Alright. Oh yeah, looking pretty cool. You can hear presented by Cave from the Donanpachi Daiojo. So yeah, Castlevania Lament of Innocence on Nether SX2. Because Ether SX2 got fucked over because the developer gave up on it, and then somebody had to take over, and that's the creation of Nether SX2. So here you go. You got this nice looking PS2 emulator on Android, Nether SX2. So here you go. I got my emulators, Nether SX2, RetroArch, DuckStation, Redream, Yaba Senshiro 2. So, here you go. The reason why I got back into retro game collecting because, hey, I found out emulation's improved. I found out, okay, hardware is beginning to improve for emulation, so if I were to go the emulation route, and if I were to basically go for a quick budget-friendly, on-the-go thing that would be more focused for retro game emulation, it would be the One Retro Game Emulation Station. Something like that. And yeah, I do want to go ahead with that in mind. I want to go ahead and build up more of my physical retro collection, and I want to make sure I have more preserved than ever, so that way I can have my video game collection prolonged for much longer, and not only that, have a more expanded library than ever. Especially for the foreseeable future. Basically, make sure your sorry ass is covered, take matters in your own hands, and, like I said, preserve your own physical retro game media. Oh yeah, and I will look forward to you in the next video. Peace out.